All right. Well, welcome to the April NEBBA meeting, and we're going to get started. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Jennifer Fox. I am the New England, the NEBBA president. I am also the president of Transrail Business Advisors of Boston. If you're not talking, can you mute your audio? It makes less feedback. But I'm the president of Transrail Business Advisors of Boston. I'm really excited to have everyone here today. And I was just talking to a few people when we first started, and it's been over 2 years of us being virtual. But in May, it is our first in-person meeting. I am very excited. It is at the DoubleTree on May 18th. I can't wait to see everyone in person. So please register when we send out those emails. But I also want to thank all of our members, our board members for the last 2 years for making these meetings successful, because I think we have done a great job of having success with networking and continuing education thanks to our wonderful membership and board members. If you are not a NEBBA member and you would like to become a NEBBA member, I just want to remind you of our memberships. You can promote that you are part of this wonderful organization to your clients. You can have our put your logo on things. And most important, which I think is the best part of being part of this membership, is getting feedback from your peers and being part of the NEBBA Google group, which emails are passed back, like maybe not daily, but weekly. We see lots of advice and feedback. So it's great to be part of that. So if you are new to the meeting today, you'll expect to see a follow-up from someone in the organization about joining. And second, I'd like to thank our website sponsors that make this organization possible. Beth Shea, who I see here today, you can give a little wave, is Vice President of SBA Lending at Atlantic Capital Bank. Justin Grally, who's also here today, is from Coastal Machinery Equipment Appraisers, and he is also on our events committee that helps events like this get going. Jennifer McKay, Vice President at TD Bank. Lou Pereira, he is from Merrimack Business Appraisers, and he is also on the board. Eric Sigmund, M&A attorney, NEBBA from Roberta, Israel and Weiner, and he is also a board member. Jonathan Smith, I see him here, he can give a little wave, Vice President and Senior Loan Officer from Live Oak Bank. And last, Jordan Richmond, Senior Vice President of SBA from Ameriprise Bank, and he is also on our events committee. So thank you to all of our website sponsors. Next, I'd like to give a quick update on what is going on with our merger. So as you all know, that we've been working hard to merge Business Brokers Alliance of New England with NEBBA to form NEBBA Plus, which is going to add more access to co-broking. And we're working on revamping our website to make it easier to co-broke and hopefully grow this organization. We're going through the process of doing a website demo, or not a website, a beta testing on the website right now. So I'm going to hand it over to Sarah Grossman, who's our Vice President of NEBBA. She's also the principal of Bay State Business Brokers, who's been leading the merger to give us an update.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. So as Jennifer says, we met with the marketing agency. We're pretty close to having the website finalized. We actually have it demoed. All the board members are doing some beta testing on it. I had my admin kind of like play around on the back end, make sure that, inputting listings is easy and, try to figure out the functionality. What's actually really cool too is that we're going to have a way as well to capture comps of businesses that we sell. Someone's not muted. I know. So comps of businesses that we sell. So, you can go in potentially and, get some information on some of the co-broke deals that people have done, and then actually potentially call the broker that was involved in that transaction. Cause I think we all, pretty much know each other, and maybe get some more details if it's helpful in your business. So we kind of added that as a feature as well. So I think we're hoping to have this rolled out probably sometime in May. We still have to refine some of the bylaws and sort of like the rules of engagement. What's also really nice is that the marketing agency has put together a pretty comprehensive how-to guide, so that when we do roll this out, all the offices will have kind of a step-by-step on how to do everything related to the website, how to input listings, how to search, how to customize. You'll be able to customize this to kind of your logo, your colors of your website, so that it looks, really kind of an extension of your website, which is great. So hopefully that will come out in May. Stay tuned. We will be telling you more as we progress kind of through the process.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that update. Next, I just want to mention the IBBA conference, which is in May in Denver on May 6th and May 7th. The price is going to go up after April 15th. The early bird price is still on, so there's still time to register. And since we have the chairman of the IBBA on here, I'm going to put him on the spot to give a quick highlights of why we all should be registering for the conference. Randy?
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and thanks for putting me on the spot. But I'm very, very happy to talk about IBBA Denver. 2 full days, just absolutely unbelievable. If you've never been to an IBBA conference, you are surrounding yourselves with 400 or 500 of the top business brokers from around the United States and from around the world. The luncheons, the meetings, the workshops, the classes, it is world-class all the way from start to finish. It is one of those events where you go in not 100% sure what to expect, and then you leave a couple of days later and you can't wait to get back to your desk and start applying some of which you've learned. Not to mention extraordinary networking opportunities with business brokers and the best of the business brokers from all over the country. So I look forward to seeing everybody there.
All right, thanks, Randy. That is great. I appreciate the update. Just to go over a quick agenda of what's coming next. Our next meeting again is May 18th. It is in person. So I hope to see everyone there. It's going to be a panel about how to avoid deal killers. We're going to have some M&A attorneys and lenders and a broker on the panel, and it's going to be an open, very open for people to ask questions and interactive. Upcoming meetings, we're going to provide you with a schedule update as soon as we finalize everything, but we're going to have a hybrid going on of both in-person and virtual through the summer and through next year, or through the rest of the year. So stay tuned on that. And then I'll bring it up to our presentation now. So this is exciting. Our presentation is going to be on co-broking. We do have a co-broking organization that we're trying to promote and do more of, but as everyone that has been involved in this organization now, we don't really co-broke in it. It's not very active. Our website hasn't been active. There hasn't been any much co-broking happening in. So we're very excited to have 2 veterans in the industry talk to us today about the pros and cons of co-broking and how for us to get more deals done. So I am very excited to introduce Jim Parker, who's the founder and president of Boss Group International and the state representative at large of the Business Brokers of Florida. He is very passionate for helping people realize the dream of business ownership, and James believes in doing what's right every time. He is on the 2022 IBA Board of Governors leadership team. He's past president of the Central Florida District of Business Brokers of Florida, and he's also past chairman of the Business Brokers of Florida. We're also very excited to have Randy Brigg, who I know very well, who's Senior Associate of Transworld Business Advisors of Florida. He brings over 20 years of experience and has successfully sold his own companies, combined with an additional 20 years of practice as a senior advisor and top producer at Transworld. And as I said, he is the 2022 IBBA chair, and he has 20 plus years of mergers and acquisition experience. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Jim and Randy.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you guys invite Randy and I on today to talk to you guys about co-brokering. Me and Randy both have done presentations for a couple associations around the country. So it's really exciting that different associations around the country are starting to consider doing co-brokering. It sounds like you guys have come a long way with that. You're building the website. It looks like you guys are going to start doing that. Kudos to you guys. Fantastic. Like Jennifer said, I'm very passionate about co-brokering. So is Randy. But at the same time, Randy and I, when we talked about doing this presentation and other presentations similar to this, we really want to talk about the pros and the cons. Obviously, we both are in a state where co-brokering is very prevalent, and we both are, honestly, we're pro co-brokering at the end of the day. But there are some drawbacks to co-brokering, and going into co-brokering, we want to make you guys aware of that. We just want you guys to look at today's presentation as a situation where you're hearing both sides, and that it's not everything's just beautiful and perfect and everything's pretty with co-brokering. There are some downsides, but obviously we think that co-brokering, the positives of it outweigh the negatives. So that's what we would like to discuss today. And we're going to go through a presentation very quickly, Randy and I. And then we want to open up to a question and Q&A situation, and so we want to save a lot of time for the Q&A. So let me go ahead and begin that. Do I have access to share on this? Yes, I do.
Yes, you should. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah, it's not letting me share.
Now you should. Sorry about that.
I could tell a couple of business broker jokes in the interim.
You should be able to.
Okay. I am. Yep, for some reason it's not.
Aaron, can you hear Aaron, the host?
Yes, you should be able. You should be able to just click the share screen at the bottom and then
Yeah,
select.
I'm clicking that and it's saying I have to go in the systems and preferences. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Is it a file you can send me that I could just share for you?
Yeah.
Is this where Randy tap dances?
Yeah, let me try to do that real quick. Let me send
This
that to you. I apologize, everybody.
Well, while Jim and Aaron are working on that, I'll weigh in with a couple of comments. Here in Florida, for the vast majority of the business brokers here, unless you're like 80 years or older, it's the only system that we've ever known. It's all that we've ever operated in is this environment of co-brokering. And sometimes we look at other states and around the country, and we kind of wonder where their deal flow is coming from and how do they sell as many businesses as they do, and how do they get the word out about a particular engagement or listing that they have to as many people as possible in the absence of a co-brokering environment. So as Jim mentioned, to be clear, we are big fans of the world of co-brokering. It's taken us many, many years to be able to codify the rules as to how agents around the state of Florida are going to work together. And by the way, those rules are made available to other associations so that you can see our rules. And were you to go down the road with co-brokering, you can obviously take a set of rules from Florida and they can be modified for the wants and the needs of the agents and the brokers in your particular market. But it is a program that has been carefully planned out and figured out, and it does get updated and modified periodically. And it's one that works very, very well for us and allows us as individual agents to sell a lot of businesses. And again, it's the only environment that we're aware of. And one of the advantages is that there is this collection of data. Once a business gets sold, all this information is in this state website that we operate and maintain. But we're going to look at all that when Jim gets to his part of the presentation.
And Jennifer, I sent you the presentation.
All
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So sorry, everybody.
All right. I need to
Here
put
we
it
are.
in
View.
view.
Yeah. To the left, I think.
Or bottom right, where the little pages to the left of that.
There we go. Oh, now it's not on my.
There we go. We got it.
You
There
can
you
see
go.
it? Okay.
Yes, we
Okay,
can. And
let's
and I
move
just wanna-
forward.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move forward.
Yeah, Jimmy, click through.
Through to Jennifer. You already introduced us. Let's get right to the business. Go ahead, Randy.
All right, so we're going to, Jim and I are going to take separate parts of this presentation. By way of a setup, I think it's important that you understand a little bit about what Florida looks like in terms of numbers and size and history, and then we'll lead into the concepts themselves on co-brokering. So these numbers obviously are always changing just a little bit. Right about now, we've got 920 agent members that are part of this system. Co-brokering has been in place for 36, 37 years here in Florida. The 920 agents are coming out of 276 broker offices. So you can do the math and get an idea as to the size of the offices. Some of them are one-man shows and others are offices with 20 or 30 agents in them. We also maintain a very large membership base of associate members. These are the law firms, the lenders, the appraisers, the financial planners. All of these people are part of our membership of BBF, Business Broker of Florida. Next slide, please. So to understand how it works, it is the state organization, the BBF, that operates the BBF multiple listing system, our MLS. It is all, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, pulled together with a very comprehensive rule book that is periodically updated and changed based on the needs and the feedback from our members. We've had just in the past year a couple of significant changes. While I would love to spend an hour or two with you flipping through the pages of this rule book, I thought you might find it interesting if we just picked out maybe 10 or 12 of some of the interesting rules, which I have put in front of you. And this is just some of the rules from this rule book. First of all, if you're a member of the BBF, you are agreeing to co-broke. If you take a listing, certainly a Main Street listing, you are going to put it into a pool and you're going to make that available not only for you to be able to sell it perhaps to your own buyer, but to other members of the association. There's a lead time, 7 days, so you can take the listing, you can have a week to package it up, maybe to call your own buyers. But once you start advertising your business on BizBuySell or anywhere, you then have 7 days from that point to put it in the MLS and make it available the other members. Things like inventory being included in the price is a must. You're not allowed to cut and paste another broker's listings and kind of advertise them as your own. We have a strong qualifying process. So if you're a buyer's agent, the selling agent, you need, and it is required that you qualify that buyer, meaning that you've got to check their financial ability, certainly their professional ability for that business. The buyer's agent also has to screen for competitors. If the buyer that I'm working with is a direct competitor of the listing broker's business, I've got to disclose that to give the seller of the business the opportunity to decline to move forward with that buyer. We have a standard association NDA, so everybody uses the same legal NDA. We've even addressed commission splits. So we've agreed that for deals up to 1.5 million, that whatever the fee is, whatever the commission is, it's going to be split 50-50. For larger deals up to $5 million, it's a 60-40 split. For deals over 5 million, true M&A deals, it's an 80-20 split. And we address things like that very first all-important showing of the business. We have a steadfast rule where the buyer's agent must attend that showing. And if the buyer's agent doesn't attend, then the commission split by default goes back to an 80-20. So this is just a sample of many, many, many rules that are in place that keeps this system together. Next screen, please. To give you an idea of what the database looks like now, well, perhaps like your market, our listing inventory is down. We've been as high as 4,000 listings a few years ago, but with COVID and everything, we're down just a little bit. Right about now, about 2,500, 2,600 listings, lots of pizza restaurants and preschools and dry clean plants and air conditioning, but several thousand listings covering lots of different professional spaces. And you, if you're working with a buyer or if you're working with a seller and you want to pull up information about what's on the market before you bring, for example, your seller to market, you can sort all the listings. We have a very robust sort feature in our MLS system. It allows you to sort the current listings by industry, price, location, what city it's in, what county it's in, by the down payment that is required, whether or not there's any seller financing, whether or not it's been pre-qualified by the listing agent for SBA financing. We can sort by the type of financials. So if you have a buyer you're working with and will only buy a business with tax return records, you can sort and click on show me only restaurants with tax return records, for example. Obviously, we have buyers that may want real estate. We can sort for that. Sometimes we have buyers that are asking for semi-absentee or absentee-owned businesses. We can sort for that also. So the system itself is a very, very robust one. Next slide, please. There are pros and there are cons. And I think what I'd like to do is to just give you a short overview of what the perceived downside is to a system where business brokers in a given state or a given region are co-brokering. Certainly, the perceived negatives fall into three different categories: distrust, no need, just don't need to co-broke, and then the broker's compensation, the question of giving up some of your fee. And I'd like to take a little bit of a closer look at those now with the next slide. So on the distrust side of the discussion, well, if I'm a listing broker and I'm co-broking in a certain geographic area, I'm going to have confidentiality concerns. How can I be assured that my listing is kept confidential if other brokers have access to my seller and the information about my seller? I certainly am going to have a concern and a distrust about the overall competency and the education and the experience of the broker working on the other side of the deal. I'm certainly going to have some questions about their professionalism. I might be distrustful of the other broker not doing his or her share of the work. And in the breakout session this morning, we were talking a little bit about that. I mean, we expect that the other broker in a co-broking situation is going to carry his weight. I might be distrustful of the other broker just throwing buyers at my seller without truly qualifying the buyer and getting a financial statement on the buyer, or finding out if the buyer is even a competitor of my seller. These are legitimate concerns. And certainly on the distrust side, as a listing agent, we're always concerned about losing control of the deal. We know that there is that possibility if another agent has come in and has their way of essentially selling your business. Next slide, please. So other deal points with regards to the downside to co-brokering is the idea that there's just no need. Sometimes the argument is made that a real buyer who's really looking for my type of business is going to find me anyway, whether I'm co-broking or not. I'm on Biz Buy Sell, I'm on a dozen other websites, somehow they're going to find me. Or that I just don't need to operate at that level by selling more and more businesses. Business is great. I'm coming off of a record year. I'll sell the business when I sell the business. And I don't necessarily need to co-broke to stimulate that additional volume in my practice. And next slide. So the other side, of course, is a discussion of commission. And this comes up all the time when Jim and I speak to groups about co-brokering, and whether it's said out loud or it's suggested, there is a difference between a $50,000 fee and a $25,000 fee, or a $200,000 fee and a $100,000 fee. Why not keep all of it? I'm doing all the work. I found the buyer. I'm the one that's going to control the deal and get it closed. And that is a concern that we talk about all the time. And I think it's also one that Jim will talk about as we move over to Jim's side of the discussion. And so, Jim, I'm going to let you take over about the pros.
Well, thank you very much, Randy. You're going to be a hard one to follow up with. You did a great job covering everything so far. So let's go into the pros. The pros kind of contradict what we just went over with the negatives. But, you know, really at the end of the day, if you're going to co-broke, it's really better for the buyers, and it really is better for the sellers. It's going to improve you as a broker. And as a broker, you're going to make more money. Those are the three kind of things that we're going to break down and cover really quickly if we get to the next slide. Okay, so it's better for the buyers and the sellers. You know, the sellers, you know, the biggest thing we're trying to do as a broker, what we should be doing as a broker, is we want to increase the chances of that seller selling their business. And we want to open that up to the biggest potential group of buyers that are possibly out there. And we want to sell it as quickly as we can for them. And we want to get the best price we can. And all those first 5 things that I just talked about, that co-brokering lends to that. You know, when we put it on the market and we're opening it up in Florida, like Randy was saying, we have over 900 business brokers throughout Florida that when we put it up on the system, immediately 900 other brokers have a chance to see that listing, and they've got buyers. And it's just increasing the amount of buyers that are going to step forward. And the more buyers that step forward looking at a business, obviously you got a better chance of selling it quicker, better chance of selling it for a higher price because people are competing against each other. If it's a good business and it's priced right. And, you know, so just that's the whole thing, is just getting the most possible offers you possibly can. And co-brokering really allows you to be in that type of a situation. And I think a big thing too is I think the sellers truly feel like they have a better relationship with you as a broker when they know that you're willing to co-broke with other brokers to get their business sold so that they can get it sold at the best price possible and in the quickest, best terms possible. For the buyers, it's the best situation for the buyers when they're co-brokering. It potentially allows them to see many, many more businesses than they would normally see. They're going to reduce the amount of time that they're going to be spending on businesses, and they're going to feel better about their relationship with the broker. And what I mean by that is when a broker contacts me about a business that I have for sale, and if that business is no longer available for some reason, or maybe that just doesn't match their criteria, I can talk to them and say, hey, I'll find businesses for you. I can send them over to you. It does not cost you anything. And I explained to them that we'll be splitting the co-brokering fee from the other broker. I also explained that the other broker is also a member of the BVF, and they're willing to do that because we'd be picking up half the workload. So how does this affect the buyer? Well, first of all, I'm sure all of you guys have heard that quote, and I don't know how true it is as far as the actual statistic is, but I know it's up there, where 90% of buyers end up buying something they originally weren't looking to buy. And so, as a broker, when you get on the phone with them and you're trying to find out, hey, why do you want to buy a business? And you kind of dig deeper, it allows you not to just show the listings that you have or the people in your office have. Now I have access to a couple thousand businesses across the state of Florida, and I can say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And they're like, no, I haven't thought about that, but it does meet kind of what I'm trying to do and the lifestyle I want and what I'm trying to accomplish through the purchase of a business. And it also reduces their time greatly, because now I'm sitting there getting the NDAs from all these businesses that they're interested in. They're signing those NDAs, and I'm sending those NDAs out to the other brokers, and I'm giving it to the other brokers, and I'm trying to collect the information from the other brokers for the buyer. This is great because the buyer just has now one broker that they have to worry about contacting. Instead of contacting 10 different brokers about 10 different businesses, they've got one broker or one office that they're reaching out to. They're asking about information on that. My job is to collect that information, get that information over to them. So it saves them a lot of time. And on the flip side of that, brokers in Florida typically will get back to another broker quicker than they will to a buyer contacting them directly. And I know that sounds really, really strange, but let's think about this. For every 20 buyers that contact us, we're getting 1 or 2 buyers that we know are serious. By the time we get on the phone with them and we pre-qualify them, do they have the money? Do they have the experience? How motivated they are to buy the business? And a lot of people don't even get back to you. When I'm bringing forward a buyer and I'm calling Randy and I'm reaching out to Randy and say, hey, I've got a buyer that's interested in your XYZ company, Randy is going to probably feel better and be like, well, hey, Jim's bringing a buyer forward. Jim's already pre-qualified that buyer. If Jim is spending his time and his energy on this buyer, I know that they're a serious buyer. And that's why brokers are more apt to get with other brokers quicker when they're responding to ads and things like that. And I think the buyers feel better about the relationship too, because now they're feeling like they have a broker that's more on their side, that's assisting them, and it's not just another broker working with the seller themselves. So if we can move forward to the next slide, that'd be fantastic. As a broker, I think that we improve as a broker greatly. I think over the years, me co-brokering with other brokers has been instrumental in making me a better broker. And I think all of us just want to be the best that we could possibly be. And when I'm talking about this, I'm saying making me the best business broker that I can be. I'm not saying that I'm the best business broker out there. I know a ton of really, really talented brokers that I look up to, but I want to be the best that I can be. And by working with other brokers, it kind of gives me insight on how they work and how they operate. So when I get done with the closing, I'm thinking, okay, what are the things that I did right during that transaction? What are the things that I did wrong? How could have I improved? And then I'm like, what did the other broker do right? What did the other broker do wrong? How could they have improved stuff as the listing agent or the selling agent? I'm reflecting on that, or just seeing their information come across. I'm looking at that information. I'm like, wow, I like how they put it together. I like how they do this. You know, it just improves me. Or just communicating when we're trying to get a deal done and we hit a roadblock and there's an obstacle and we have to think outside the box. Now there's two of us. We're both motivated to get the deal done. You know, our seller wants to sell or the buyer wants to buy. Something comes out of the blue that's creating that obstacle. Now there's two of us that can kind of brainstorm on how to get that done. And a lot of times what I'm finding too is that we have the ability to be in a situation where I'm the best person in that transaction for the buyer, the seller that I'm working with, and the other broker is the best person to be working with the other person because of our personalities and that type of thing. And my personalities reflect that more. And then if we could go to the next slide. Okay. So improving as a broker, we kind of already went over this. You would have access to buyers that you wouldn't have otherwise. You know, in a situation that I'm talking about is I did a transaction not that long ago where I had a landscaping business that was for sale for like $2.5 million or something like that. It went under contract. And the very next day, this buyer calls me. And I'm talking to them like, wow, this buyer is like another perfect buyer for this business. I mean, they're motivated. They've got the money, credit score. They've been pre-qualified for an SBA loan. They're a fantastic buyer. I had no other business in my arsenal that would suit what they were looking for, you know? And so I started scrounging in the BBF MLS system, and I did not find a business that was exactly what they were looking for. It was different, but I was like, wow, this business might be good for them. And I called them up, and the buyer's like, I don't know. But the more we talked, they're like, yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. Make a long story short, we ended up closing on that. That was a $3 million deal. So I got a 6-figure commission on a transaction that I would have never got a 6-figure commission on, because I didn't have another business to sell this person if I wasn't co-brokering. And I honestly believe that the other broker, it was a very unique type of a business that I don't think there's a lot of buyers out there that would buy it. And my buyer, I really do not think my buyer would have ever found that business, because it was off, different from what they were looking at. And I had to have that conversation with them to keep the idea open of you know, thinking about it. And obviously they turned around and they thought it was great. So, you know, what I also like is that as a broker is that I got multiple deals going on at one time. You know, instead of having 1 or 2 or 3 deals going on, and, you know, I got to get to the closing table, and if it falls apart, it's like, holy cow. Now, when I say that, I don't want any of my deals to fall apart. I will fight tooth and nail the best I can to get a deal across the closing table. I think you know, that's what we got to do as brokers. You know, any obstacles come our way, we try to overcome those obstacles. But boy, when you only got a few deals going on and one falls apart, it hits you big time from an economic standpoint. Whereas when you're co-brokering, the great thing about it, Randy was talking about that when you co-broke, why as a con, why would you give up half your commission or 40% of your commission? Well, the reason is because that other broker is picking up 50% of the work that's involved in that transaction. So when I co-broke, if I co-broke with Randy, I know he's going to pick up 50% of that transaction as far as the work goes. That allows me to go out and work another transaction, allows me to work another listing. And we only got a limited amount of time. And there's only a few things that we sell every day as brokers. And one is knowledge, and the other one is time. And we only got so much time. So that the other broker picking up that time allows me to work another transaction. It allows me to have more balls in the air to get things across the table. So then increases a lot. So I guess we covered the other one too. And it also, again, allows me to sell the businesses quicker, get them sold at the highest possible price, get them sold quicker, again, allowing me to move on to another transaction and potentially doing more transactions. And so all these things that we were just talked about for the last few minutes, it goes up to the top one on this chart right now, that, you know, it increases the chances of selling businesses, which is great for your seller and for you. So I wanted to just touch on a little bit more about the database that Randy was talking about. We have 97 master categories in the BBF MLS system for a sold database. So our sold database is made up of 35,000 plus businesses in our database right now. So when we go to do a value on a business in Florida, most Main Street business brokers are using the BBF MLS system as their sold database. They're not going to all these other databases out there. They're going to the BBF, and we've got 35,000. BizComps has 10,000. So just put that in perspective. We've got 97 master categories, meaning that a master category might be restaurants as a master category, but there's probably, I'm guessing, about 30 or 40 subcategories under restaurants. You got pizza restaurants, Italian restaurants, fine dining restaurants, Mexican restaurants. I mean, it's all broken down. And when we're doing looking at sold databases for a lot of categories, something that's really popular, it's really popular. We are not only just searching businesses in Florida, but I can narrow it down. I'm in Central Florida. Randy's in South Florida. The really popular businesses, I can narrow down not only sometimes to Central Florida, businesses that are sold just in Central Florida, but sometimes I can narrow it down to the county or the couple counties around that business to come up with a sold database, which is incredible, because I know a lot of brokers around the country, when they're pricing a business, they're looking at, they might be in Idaho and they're looking at businesses that sold New Mexico or Nevada or California. We're looking here in Florida, we're looking at that sold database of businesses just here in Florida, and we can even get down to the very, very regional parts of Florida, which makes it fantastic. And I think that if you guys started co-brokering a lot and you kept those sold data, you had everybody put their solds in the database, that database over time is just going to grow, and it's going to benefit your entire organization as a whole. So I think that's it. If you want to switch the slide real quick, if you don't mind. There you go. There's our contact information for Randy and I. If you guys want to jot down our email addresses, our phone numbers, reach out to us. I think that I'm going to talk for Randy. He can say something if he disagrees with me, but probably the best way to get a hold of us is by email, and then we can set up a time to talk if you guys do want to talk. Did want to touch on the fact that Randy earlier was talking about those rules and regulations that we have. He covered 10 or 12 of the most popular rules and regulations that we have in the BBF. We have a database. If you could open up, you can take off the screen if you don't mind. We have a packet of rules and regulations that we can provide your leadership at your organization if you guys want to have that. The Business Brokers of Florida have already said that any association around the country that wants to look at our rules and regulations, we'll hand those rules and regulations over to you guys. They have been tried and tested over the years. It's a great set of rules and regulations. We keep them up to date, like Randy said. And, you guys might want to adjust some of those rules and regulations and change them to better fit you guys, but they've worked out really well for us. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. And if you guys have any questions, Randy and I would love to answer those.
I think, thanks, Jim. As always, you do a great job from a topic that you know very, very well. And we're happy to answer any questions for you. I will summarize it this way from my perspective. In the end of the day, I asked myself the question, if I was a business owner, what would I want, and how would I want my business broker, who I'm trusting to do the very, very best job for me in selling my business, what would I want that business broker to do? I'm always concerned when the financial question comes up, where a broker who might, in a sense, put their financial best interest in front of the interest of their seller. The seller, in the end of the day, wants their business sold, and they want it sold to the most capable buyer. It is very possible that buyer will come directly to you and you'll get both sides of the deal. On a typical year, You know, some years are up and some are down, but I average 18 to 22 closings a year. And I'm very, very consistent. 50% of my deals are co-broked, half of them. So the question is, you know, would I have made less money? Probably, if I wasn't co-broking. So it's a system that, after many years of establishing these rules, has worked out very, very well in Florida for us. Questions?
From Randy was talking about 50% of his deals are co-broked. From a state level, of all the brokers in the state of Florida, it varies year to year, but it goes from anywhere from about 32% to 40% of all deals that are done in Florida are co-broked between two different companies in Florida. So that's how prevalent co-brokering is in Florida.
You know, while we're waiting for a question, go ahead.
Are there any offices in Florida that are not co-broking?
Yes.
But it's
yes.
There are.
I would say, and I always throw the statistic number out, and I don't know if it's true or not, but this is like I think it's a good gut feeling. I would say 95% of the Main Street business brokers in Florida are members of the Business Brokers of Florida. Now that I'm going to say Main Street because when we're talking M&A,
yeah,
we're not talking M&A. M&A deals they're not usually co-broke. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a member of the BBF, then you are agreeing to co-broke, and there's independent business brokerage firms, 1-person, 5-person people scattered all over Florida. Don't forget, Florida's a big state, that have just not chosen to be a member of the state association. I cannot imagine why they would not, but they've just chosen to do their own thing and operate sort of on an island, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, Steve Mariani was asking in the chat, you know, if somebody's not a BBF member, how do they co-broke in Florida? If they're not a BBF member, chances are they don't want to co-broke. So as a BBF member, according to our bylaws, if you join the BBF, you have to co-broke with another BBF member. That's a requirement. I mean, that's the main premise for our organization here in Florida is we are not required to co-broke with anybody that's not a BBF member. So if somebody calls us up and they're not a BBF member, we don't have to co-broke with them. And quite frankly, I would not want to co-broke with them because they're not adding to our system. You know, they're trying to get the benefits of co-brokering without, you know, putting up their own listings and things like that. So I also going to tell you in Florida, just business owners, if they're doing any kind of research, they're knowing that Business Brokers of Florida exists and there is a co-brokering situation going on. And when I talk to sellers, I'm like, if you list with me or you list with somebody else, make sure you're listing with a Business Brokers of Florida member because we co-broke.
Hey, Jim, Buddy Carp has a question about calculating the commission split.
Hey, Randy, just before you go on to the next question. So Steve's question was, if you are a member of the BBF, how can some of your deals not be co-broke? So is there any restriction, like 10%, like of your deals don't have to be co-broke, or any single deal your office has to be co-broke? Like, so I think that's what he was getting at.
So deals over $5 million.
My question too.
Okay, great. So, and again, we'll tell you how it works in Florida, and you guys might want to change it up, but I do want to say this, that it's really important that I think that if you're going to have a co-brokering association and you're going to, and you guys agree to co-broke, whatever group decides to co-broke, you have to make it a rule where you're going to co-broke with each other, or people are going to start cherry picking things and whole thing's going to fall apart. You know, you really got to put everything out there. That's my belief. But there's two things. Deals over 5 million, you don't need to co-broke. You know, this is a main co-brokerage from Main Street. M&A deals, that's entirely different situation. You know, we probably all have access to the same 3,000 private equity groups around the country, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also have this ability, we have the 7-day rule. So the 7-day rule is that when I get a listing, not when I actually get the listing, but when I actually start advertising or marketing that listing for the first time, I'm actually doing it, sending out to a mass amount of people. I have 7 days before I have to open it up to co-brokering in the MLS system. So that allows me and my team to kind of go through, first of all, we're putting on biz by sale, businesses for sale, all that, BizQuest, everything like that. We're trying to get those buyers in those 7 days. Plus we're hitting our database, setting out that listing, all that. So we're kind of getting a lead or a head up on that. And because if it's easy pickings, obviously I want that. I think that's a rule that I take advantage of quite a bit. And I could see why an association might want to expand that and say 21 days or 30 days or something like that. But that's a rule. After 7 days of advertising, it has to be out there if it's a Main Street business.
Okay, great. Sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to cut you off, but.
Oh, no, not at all.
Question.
Buddy's asking the question about the commission split, quote, excluding real estate. Is the commission split not paid on the real estate? Well, the commission split is paid on the real estate. The concept of excluding the real estate is only for the calculation of whether that particular business falls into the 50-50 category, the 60-40 category, or the 80-20 category. In Florida, as in most states, in order to be a business broker, you need to be a licensed real estate agent. So
that is not a requirement in Massachusetts.
No, I know that. And so obviously there is a discussion as to how to handle that. If a selling agent, a buyer's agent, is not licensed to receive a fee that comes as a result of selling real property, real estate, then there would not be a compensation in that particular case. In Florida and in 41 other states, it's not an issue, because you need to be a real estate agent. I hope that addresses that, buddy.
I wanted to add to that, Randy. That was excellent. I wanted to add one more thing to that question about the commission splits. There's also everything that is made in that transaction is thrown into the pot. So if there is a $100,000 or $75,000 referral fee from the SBA, from the selling agent, the one working with the buyer, the listing agent splitting their commission on the sale of that business. If the buyer's agent is receiving a referral fee from the SBA, that's thrown in the pot too, and that is split as well.
There's so many side concepts here that are advantages that come as a result of co-brokering. I'll share with you one that just happened to me a couple of days ago, but I've used it many, many times over the years. I'm working with a buyer. We're looking to purchase a small janitorial business in Florida. We go through the MLS. There's 7 or 8 on the market. We find one that is of particular interest. We have the meeting. We put everything together, and it's time for me to write an offer on the business. The listing agent is asking $500,000 for a business that, is probably worth $300 on a good day. I mean, it's grossly overpriced. So as part of the offer that I wrote up for and on behalf of my buyer, I went into the comps, all of the sold janitorial businesses here in South Florida in the same market as the seller. And I printed out the last 34 listings, and they're all one line, and you can average them up, and it shows what a reasonable multiple in the South Florida market has been for the sale of similar janitorial services. And you know what? I shared that with the buyer. We attached that as part of our offer, and we found ourselves under contract, very close to the price that we offered. Not what they were asking, $500, but about $320, because the data is all important. It's the reality of the information that is available to buyers and sellers. That seller just needed to be educated. That's all, as to what businesses like his are selling for, and we're gonna buy that business and close on it. Just one of the many advantages when you have this incredible database of businesses that are for sale in your market and businesses that have sold in your market.
How long?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What's kind of cool is that we also have the ability that if you're trying to find a plumbing business for somebody that's doing gross sales of, let's say, over $1 million, and you're having a hard time finding that, you can enter that buyer into our MLS system. And then every Monday, emails will go out to those people that you enter in the system. And if something comes up that meets their criteria, that buyer will automatically get an email. And if something doesn't come up, they get an email saying, sorry, nothing came up that meets your criteria. Here's your criteria. Let me know if you want to change it. But if something comes up that does meet their criteria, they automatically get that email. So you're not sitting there every week looking for that plumbing business. Now, on the flip side of that, as listing agents, when we're going out there getting a listing, what's one of the biggest questions the seller says is, do you have any buyers for my business? Do you have any buyers? Well, before you go out to your meeting, go into the system. If you're going to go meet with a pizza owner and somebody looking to sell a pizza restaurant, go into the system. You can search by buyers of all the people that that are looking to buy a pizza restaurant, and you can print out that list. Now, I can see the agent's name. I can see what that buyer's criteria is, but I cannot see the buyer's name. I can't see the buyer's contact information. All I can see is the agent's name and information about their buyer. But I can print out that list, and I can go in and I can say, well, here's 75 people right now looking for your type of business. So that's pretty powerful.
Jen, your question, how long did it take you to build the database? Are you specifically asking how long did it take to get to 35,000 sold comps?
Yeah, it must have been a very long.
20 years.
Yeah, 20. Okay.
20 years.
Probably close to 20. I don't know how far back our BBF goes.
I think it's like 22 years.
Yeah, it's probably that period
But,
of time.
I've been doing this for 20 years. So the BBF has been around 2 or 3 years before I started doing this. And I remember when I became a BBF member 20 years ago, I felt like our database was pretty robust then, talking about the sold database. So you just put it all into perspective of, don't look at it like, wow, it'll take us 20 years to build up our database. I think you guys would be happy if you guys had 5,000 comparables that you guys can look for in the New England area.
If I have a listing appointment tomorrow with a, fill in the blank, a local air conditioning contractor, there's a lot of information that I should be going into in that appointment in order to establish my experience and my professionalism and my credibility. But for 2 items, there's absolutely no substitute. My seller might ask me, well, are there any other air conditioning companies on the market right now? Is there 100? What environment are you going to be operating in and selling my business? Or am I the only one? And I can press a button, as I do the night before that meeting, and print out a report, and I can show my seller, look, there's 7 other air conditioning companies on the market right now. Your business is probably going to fit in right in the middle of those. And in that very same meeting, my seller is going to say to me, well, how are you going to begin to put a value on my business? How do you know how to price it? And we all know the various approaches to valuing a business, but certainly the comp method, the principle of substitution, the concept that your air conditioning business is going to sell for about what the last air conditioning business sold for in this market, given similar financials. And I can go into that meeting with a seller and I can say to him, listen, here's the last 72 air conditioning companies. They all did between $1 million and $1.5 million, just like you. I've averaged it out for you. They tend to sell for a 3-time multiple of SDE, where they tend to sell for about 77% of top line revenues. That's a great starting discussion for you to have with a seller, because you really are going in there as a professional when you've got that kind of data to be able to talk to a potential seller with. Right, Jim?
Absolutely.
Does that?
Do you guys have any concerns about co-brokering that we can talk about, or fears, or?
It's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think This is Aaron. So the only concern that I always have that comes up is when we start to see people expand, like this group, I'm not worried about, but I always worry about new brokers coming in and starting to really undervalue their services. And then all of a sudden it's on the, once it's out there, and giving our clients an ability to price shop all of us.
Well,
When you
talking
say
about
undervalue
commissions.
their services,
Cut our commission.
okay.
I think you're going to have that with co-brokering, without co-brokering.
Never, listen, we're in probably as competitive environment as anywhere here in South Florida. I mean, I go into the supermarket and see 3 business brokers walking around. We've not been as concerned about that. It's a good competitive environment.
Florida's a highly competitive market. I mean, we've got, like we said, 900 business brokers throughout the state of Florida. There's a lot, and it's very competitive, but we do get people that come in that are trying to, cut their commissions, but I don't know. I mean, they're the type of people that really don't know what they're doing. They're not experienced. I think experienced business brokers know their value and they can explain that value to their sellers. But I think that's going to be more of a, whether it's co-broker or not co-brokering situation.
Well, here's one advantage that your association has that Florida didn't, is that most of the heavy lifting has been done for you. The set of rules that have been put together and tried and tested and changed sometimes over the years, they've already been created. These rules can be modified to fit the needs and the feedback of members of your particular association. But in the end of the day, it's a set of rules that people live by. And sometimes we even have to look up the rule. Oh, what's the rule? Oh, okay, that's how we're going to do it. And we respect that rule. And by the way, when you are admitted to a member of the BBF, there's a full orientation, 2 days now, I think.
Yep.
And Jim is one of the instructors and has been for years. I mean, you don't just get thrown into the environment. You have to be instructed in how it works, how the MLS works, what our rules, what the code of ethics are. And it's in that way that we try to get everybody on board. Do we have people that sometimes, make a mistake or go a different direction? Of course we do, but we also have a system for dealing with those brokers that have gone astray of our rules.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd like to comment, I mean, I had the first deal on our co-brokerage system about 14 years ago. And again, we don't do nearly enough co-broking. I think the biggest hindrance for us, we don't have a lot of people on it. It's never been part of our organization, which that's going to change. But also just the system itself wasn't that great. So I think with our new system, it'll be good. And one thing to consider is, as newer brokers are coming into the industry, this gives them a leg up and an opportunity to really get into a deal quickly before they have to get a listing themselves, right? I mean, we have buyers come into our office every day that we have a hard time even keeping up with. So I think the ability to then really capture these buyers and aggressively show them listings, and maybe, you could get something under agreement your first month of business brokerage is a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because we all know, I'm sure we all get buyers that call us all the time and we don't have time to spend the time with them. And so I think for newer brokers, there's a huge opportunity for them to really get involved and start co-broking for sure.
Sarah, I think that's a great point. It is new brokers coming in, into the industry. It does kind of help them. If they can get a buyer, it does kind of help them out of the gate quicker. I can tell you there's a seasoned agent here in Central Florida that is with Randy's company here in Central Florida. He recently did a presentation for us in Central Florida. He's been very, very successful over the years, does a lot of deals. And he basically said, the reason I make so much money and the amount of deals that I do is because I depend on you guys to co-broke. He goes, I co-broke about over 80% of my deals. And it saves me time and allows me to just keep listing. So it even helps the successful seasoned people. I did want to add to you guys too, that, I had mentioned that we can send you the rules and regulations of the BBF. and you can look them over and you can adopt what you want and adopt what you don't want. I really urge your board to really look at those. And, if you do want to change things, you might want to talk to some of our leadership here in the BBF, because there's reasons why we have these rules and regulations. Again, BBF's been around for 22 years. We've been co-brokering in the state of Florida for 35 years because there was an organization before us. So the reason why we have these rules and regulations, they're changing all the time, is because, not all the time, but every year or two they're updating. It's because we see different things. So you guys not being in that environment where you've co-broked as on a huge, large scale, you guys might not be thinking, oh, well, we could change that rule or this rule. There's reasons why we have these rules, but there are other rules that I look at and I go, yeah, those could be modified.
And know that where the hourglass is starting to run down, there was a question from Phil about more rural areas where distance between business brokers are far apart. Well, listen, I mean, Florida, again, is a giant state. I deal with that all the time. I had a buyer fly in last week. I'm here in South Florida. He's looking at a business 400 miles north. It's a co-listed business. I called the listing broker. I explained my situation. I said, listen, I'd like very much to be able to attend the meeting. I either have to take a plane or, it's 4 hours each way. And of course, as a member in good standing in the association, that listing broker agreed to essentially cover it for me. Of course, I was involved before the meeting. Of course, I followed up after the meeting. So there's lots of ways, and any agreement can be made between the one agent and the other agent as long as the agreement is made. We're looking at Ed's question.
One last question, and then we should wrap it up.
Yeah.
Ed, yeah, it's a good question. Well, the challenge, and that question comes up nationally a few times. The challenge is that we're dealing in the world of private businesses and private transactions. So while we certainly can quantify everything in the state of Florida, thousands and thousands of businesses that have been sold, comparing them to the full set of all businesses that have been sold in that space is not such an easy thing to do, because again, it's a private transaction. What we do know is, and what we do believe is, that in a competitive and an open environment, the more buyers that are exposed to a business, the better the deal is, certainly for the seller. I mean, if I have a business, my broker brings one buyer to me in a year, my business is not going to sell at a premium. But if that business can be exposed to 15 or 20 or 30 buyers, from a common sense point of view, my business is going to sell for more money. It's an excellent, excellent question.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add as a closing point, Randy or Jim?
Appreciate your time. We really do. Appreciate everybody attending today. Certainly Jim and I are available at any time should you have any questions. We're all in this boat together. We all do the same thing for a living. We sell businesses, or we finance the transaction of a business, and we all believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. So we're here to help each other, and this just happens to be something that Jim and I are very passionate about. I appreciate everybody's time today.
I'd like to add something too. I just want to say, I think that down the road, we're going to look back at this industry and we're not going to believe that there was a time period where most of the country did not co-broke. I think that co-brokering is going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on. And I think we are going to hit a time period where business brokers are going to co-broke, and it's going to be commonplace across the country. And I'd like to see that, because I honestly believe that is the best for the sellers, it's best for the buyers, and it's best for us brokers. And that is where we're going to be heading. And I kind of feel like by not co-brokering, we're kind of like staying in the dark ages. And I just think that's where it's heading. And I just want to leave you guys that I honestly, me and Randy spent a lot of time talking to individuals and groups and associations about co-brokering, and we don't get anything from it. We believe in co-brokering, and that's why we do it. And anything you guys need, any questions you have, or you just want to bounce things off, anything, we're here for you guys as individuals and as an association. And I just want to thank you, Jennifer and Sarah, for having us on today, and your whole association. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so
Randy.
much, Jim and Randy. We really appreciate you guys being here today and telling us all about the pros of co-broking. And as we're updating our website to make it easier, we really hope that we can do more deals and expand co-broking throughout New England. So this was really helpful for everyone in our organization to hear today. So we're really glad that you were able to join us. And if anyone does have deals or buyers in Florida, think of Jim and Randy today. But just a reminder, our next meeting is May 18th, but I hope before that I get to see everyone in person at IBBA in Denver. So have a great day, everyone. And thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Bye.
Thanks, Jennifer. Bye-bye.